make these buttons.
They what?
They make these buttons.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Hacking Health Podcast. I'm your host, Ben Canning, with Dave Kennedy.
Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. Dave, what were you saying about a button?
Well, I'm saying there's a button you can use that it can have certain actions that automatically do things for you.
Stream Deck?
Yeah, Steam Deck. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'll get one of those set up so that I can do that button to save all of the time that it takes to put that on the start of the thing in post. We'll get a button to set it up.
Literally, it's just a button that does it. Yeah. It just does it.
Yeah, cool. What's going on, dude?
Oh man, I am, needless to say, exhausted. I have been traveling nonstop for various conferences. I was in GurtCon. I did an IANS keynote. I did SaintCon. I'm about to do Red Hat Con. And I've done a number of corporate presentations for Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And I have like 2 more to go, and I'm pretty much done for this month. But a lot of travel. I flew into Utah, which is about I flew Frontier, first of all, which I don't normally fly, but it's the only direct flight out there. And it wasn't bad. I literally could just sleep the whole time. But it's like a 4.5-hour flight there, and then the way back I had to stop through Denver. But I flew out Monday, came back Tuesday. Today's Wednesday. And I'm leaving tomorrow for Kentucky. So it's been a lot of travel, but honestly, it's been really good. The conferences have been great. I've been getting my lifts in. Just went through that one workout that we shall not name this morning. And things have been going really good.
You like to name one time?
One time. Yeah. How you doing, dude?
I'm doing good. I did a bit of travel myself. I was in Phoenix last week. Just to get away, spend some time in nature, bro, which was cool. It's fucking cool out there, and it was good to be in the sun and in the warmth. Spend some time working on the business and other bits and pieces, stuff that I've told you about, setting stuff up for us to have a bi-weekly newsletter, set up some stuff up as a structure to have a little bit more action on the blog, on the website, and then came at you with some structure to the podcast and a plan moving forward. So everything is good on my end.
That's awesome. I have a funny story. So, I have this Cybertruck, and I have had it skinned the Halo Warthog. So it has like UNSC, the United Nations Space Command, and then it has like the logos. And it has Master Chief on it. It looks just like the Halo Warthog. And so obviously I need to get a full Halo suit. But to get a full Halo suit, they don't make it in a 6'4", person of my stature. So I went to a company that actually customizes and builds it to your spec, right? And so they asked for all my measurements, and I said I'm more of an athletic build, muscular build, and so I started giving the measurements, and they came back and they said, "Hey, your shin/calf measurements are small. Are you sure they're correct?" I was like, "Son of a bitch." Let me just read. I'm not going to read you the actual message they sent me here, because it literally, I can't make this up. Like, it literally is my biggest fear in life is someone making fun of my shin sizes or my calf sizes. So please confirm your shin circumference, wrist, and torso length, because from the picture sent, your shin circumferences you sent seem small.
It's some bro on the other side. He definitely trains. He's like, I'm going to fuck with this guy.
He's going to fuck with this guy. The truth of the matter is, I did measure it wrong. I thought the shin was the front part, not the calf. So I did measure it again, and it was a higher thing. But just to see that when I woke up in the morning, like, wrecked my day. I'm like, seriously? Like, you're seriously telling me I have small calves? Like I know I have small calves. I know this, okay? You don't need to tell me, okay? Just make the damn Halo suit, So,
can you make the suit with bigger calves so I feel better?
Yeah. Can you put calf implants in so it looks like I have big calves? Like something.
Well, I'm glad that you got it sorted. So when will it be ready?
I don't know. They're building it now. I'm guessing it won't be ready, obviously, for Halloween, which is this week, but it should be ready within the next month or so. And then I get my DeLorean back in the next couple of weeks.
Nice.
And it's really good. So yeah, I mean, things are moving along in the Kennedy craziness of being a little child and having all these cool toys. So
good, glad to hear it. Right, today, what I want to talk about, the topic on the whole, is how every client is not a success story. And the reason I want to talk about this for a number of reasons, and it boils down to me myself more than anything else. So maybe selfish in some way, but I don't want everybody to think that it's all just sunshine and rainbows from a coaching aspect, and then everybody's a success story. And I think there's a lot of common denominators of reasons why I think people aren't successful on the whole. And this goes for what I do in terms of coaching, but I also think it goes in terms of career and business and other aspects. So hopefully it'll be beneficial to people in some way, shape, or form. The initial points on this have come from our Lord and Savior, Alex Hormozy. I realize he's not your Lord and Savior, but he's mine and Matt's Lord and Savior. I was watching a video of his probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and there was a bit that he said in it, and I'll get into it in a second, but I was like, that's me. Like, that's something that I have done myself, and it wasn't necessarily to do with health and fitness or whatever, but it was to do with social media marketing and whatever else. I was like, this could be beneficial to talk about. Essentially what he talks about is levels of competence. And I think the biggest reason that people will feel going into something is their mindset going into the thing. So if they go into it with a positive mindset, it's going to work. Generally, it's going to work. But he broke it down into multiple layers, and I'm just going to run through them and get your thoughts probably more than anything else. So the first one is positive active. And that is the example actually he used was Elon Musk. Basically, Elon will say, unless you can prove based on the laws of physics that we know that it does not work, I'm going to fucking do it. So it's like no matter what, no matter how good or bad the program is, no matter how good or bad the thing is, I will do whatever it takes to make it work. It's ownership in the thing. They will make it work as a person. It's not the, will this program work for me? It's how do I make this program work for me?
Yeah, I will say when I was at SaintCon, so many people came up to me and just said, "Hey, thank you so much for sharing what you share. You've changed, my perspective on things, my outlook of things." And Grifter did a really awesome introduction of myself when I was getting introduced on stage. And he said, Dave's been instrumental in my health. And, he's one of those people that when he says he's going to do something, he just goes and does it. And you can see his transformation and what he was able to accomplish, improve what he works, and shared his journey, which has then inspired and helped a lot of other people. But I think, when you look at people that necessarily don't have the success, a lot of times it comes down to prioritization and buy-in of that person, right? And this journey we call, life and fitness and everything else, it isn't easy. And I think, I'm surprised to hear it's not all sunshines and rainbows, by the way, just kidding. But, I do think, people have different things going on in their lives, and sometimes they just can't convert or change things that they've done in the past to really make a different type of lifestyle that it really requires you to do, and really change what you're doing day to day to be a different person, right? It's a big ask. It's a big ask.
It is for sure. But if we think about you as the example here, like, what you just said there is, you put your mind to something and you do it regardless. Like, you will work out how to do the fucking thing no matter what. And if we think, back to, I guess, probably this time exactly 4 years ago, how meticulous you were in every detail of the stuff that I give to you to do in terms of tracking calories, in terms of getting your workouts in terms of doing the cardio. Like, you did the thing no matter what. It's like, how can I be the best student or case study possible based on my actions for this person? So, like, I give you the tools, and I will always give you the credit for doing the work. I can only give the tools, but you put the work in and you did the stuff that was asked for you, and that's why you got the result.
Yeah, it doesn't magically happen, right? Just by going through, the cycles, or just being able to read a book doesn't mean that you understand the concept of that book or are a practitioner in that area just because you read a book. You actually have to implement it and practice it. And a good way I like to equate that is when I first wrote my first hacker toolkit, which was called FastTrack. And I had no idea what I was writing or how I was going to write it. And I was learning Python at the time. And I needed to figure out how to write a certain tool to complete a certain objective, but I didn't know how to do it. And so I had to immerse myself into that language, learn that language, figure out how things work, trial and error, what worked for me, what didn't work for others. I read certain books that didn't really make a lot of sense to me. Read some books that did. And then, at the end of the day, just started doing it. And I got better and better and better with it. And it's kind of like, with that tool, it started off real basic at first and then turned into, something much larger that, ended up landing me a great spot speaking at DEF CON and Black Hat, and was one of the, and ShmooCon, and was one of the, foundational tools for exploitation at the time. And, I think it just goes into, nothing is given to you for free. You have to work for it. And, I also equate it to, like, I've met a lot of folks in my life that they're always trying to shortcut things. for the hopefully a big payout or reward. And I see that, like I had hired an individual a number of years ago that thought that they were going to get rich quick, by doing these crazy hacks on the stock market, and ended up bankrupting himself because, I'm sure a lot of people are really smart in the stock market and, game that as much as they have. And there's a lot of protections put in place. And, yes, you can be a Mark Zuckerberg or somebody else that just, literally wins the lottery based on something they were able to build. But, at the end of the day, the statistical probability of that happening, it's like, hey, if I decided to play basketball today, the statistical probability of me becoming the NBA is probably 0.0000000000000. I could keep going for a long time, 1%. And so still a chance. So I think, the thing is that you have to put the time in, the work in. There is really no shortcut to this. And, I think the fitness industry in general has gotten us into a cycle where, they try to come up with shortcuts that, whether it's a fad diet or a specific pill or something that you're doing, when there really isn't a shortcut, you're not going to get the desired results that you can sustain long term. And that's where I really ran into, and that's why I was so happy to when I first met with you was, I had done so many different diets, I had done so many different programs like Shaun T's Insanity and all of these different things here, and none of those were working for me. I could never figure out why, and it's because there is no shortcut. It's learning how your body works. I have to do the research on my body. What do I like doing? What do I not like doing? What can I fit within my schedule that still gives me the desired results that I want to? And then from there, building upon that. I didn't start lifting every day, for quite a long time. I think my first training program, I was lifting 3 times a week, wasn't I?
Yep, 3 times a week for Pilates, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Remember it well.
Yep. And so it's those types of things where you build up slowly over time that give you the success that you need to be who you are and to change who you are, and building those small habits that make a big difference. And I think where most people struggle with is, they get super excited at first, and then it's like squirrel, something else, right? And then they're not as in tune to what they're doing. They start to drop off of it. They start to not do as well with it. And then from there, that habit moves away.
Yeah. And I think that, again, that's an important note, that I think that probably if we zoom out on all of this and take all of this stuff out, like the biggest reason that people don't succeed in the stuff that they have done before is they just don't spend enough time doing the thing. Do you know what I mean? Like if you look back to all of the time that you spent on all the programs you did before, and if you had just spent all of that time doing the one program and not jumping from program to program to program, you probably would have had the success. But it's so difficult, especially with like the new fads and everything coming up, to just be like, oh, okay, well, this is working now, or this is working now, and just jumping from thing to thing. Whereas if you just stuck with the one thing for the entire time, you probably would have had success. And now we're 4 years in, and I think we're proofs in the pudding with your small calves.
Except the small calves.
Yeah,
we do have a topic coming up down the road about how to build specific muscle groups. We're gonna have an exception in there for calves, but other than that, yes.
Well, maybe we need to do it in like a year's time and test out the theory between us.
It's not gonna work. Listen, I can work calves every day, and it's not gonna work. I'm doing calf injections, so it'll be good. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. Cool. Right. The second level of competence is positive, passive. So still positive, but gone from active to passive. And they're the people that basically will look at you as an example and go, okay, well, if Dave can do it, I can do it. And the example that was given, Hermosi gave, was the first person to run a sub 4 minute mile. It was like, it's never been done before. It wasn't physically impossible, it just had never been done before. And then when it was ran, countless people have done it after that. So the second is, okay, he can do it. Why can I not do it?
And that was a good point that Grifter had made on his intro to me, was like, I've seen Dave in all of his forms, right? Big Dave when he was overweight, and you could see that Dave had success and was able to become a different, bigger Dave, but in the way that he wanted to. And if he could do it, anybody can go and do it, right? And that was kind of the mindset of hey, we're hackers, we're cybersecurity professionals, all of these different things. One thing he alluded to on that, which was, we're very data-centric creatures. We like data. And that's the same approach I took to mine. I looked at, everything from my measurements to the scale, the system that you had built in place, using my Whoop tracker, using statistics, using, continual glucose monitors, things like that, to understand what my body was reacting to, not reacting to, things that I was having success with, things I wasn't having success with, and using that data to be able to drive me. And I think, you just have to find what drives you to make it a reality, right? And I think, I was talking to Jack Snyder from Darknet Diaries, and he was talking about how, he's been on this fitness journey for quite a bit, and it's been awesome to see. And he was able to add, substantial amount of muscle mass. He's like, man, I'm just not noticing it first, but he took measurements and he's noticing, over the past 6 months, he's gained, 12 pounds of muscle mass, which has been phenomenal. And his clothes are fitting better and things like that. And he's feeling more confident about himself. And, those are the things that I think, when you start to see the progress, you start to see success. It's so difficult in fitness because it's so slow. It's not like you don't see it tomorrow. You don't see it the next day. You don't see it the next day, but eventually you'll start to see it. And eventually that starts to add and that starts to compound. And you start to look back, and because it's so slow, even 6 months in the future, you're going to be like, well, did this even work at all? And you look back from 6 months ago, like, oh yeah, it did. But it takes a long time, and it's not that immediate reward that a lot of people, I think, look for, instantaneously. And I think that's why at least cardio has some sort of like immediate impact, because you felt like you just completely destroyed yourself, and you probably feel immediately better because you were able to accomplish something difficult, but the results don't necessarily come, with just cardio in specific for the desired results you want to accomplish. I mean, I know people that just do cardio all day long and they can't lose any weight. Well, you're increasing your caloric intake because you've worked out so much and you're not focusing on muscle mass, and you might lose some weight at first, and it's hard to sustain that level of activity. So, cardio is really, really difficult. And it's one of those things that I think, when you try to rationalize it, you have to almost have like a blind faith doing the right things, but having a blind faith that things will change down the road.
Yeah, and that to me, I've spoken about this recently on a couple of calls with clients individually and on group calls. It's like, and Matt is very good at this with like practicing delayed gratification, and I think that is what your physical transformation is. It's like going into it with a blind faith of, number one, you're executing, you're doing the things that you said you were going to do, and the blind faith that it's going to work over time. And it's like you don't get to see it right away. And I can't remember. I'm going to give Chris Bumstead the credit for this because I've been watching loads of his videos, and I mean, the guy's a legend. So he said that one of the best things. Did you watch his last thing at the Olympia last week or 2 weeks ago?
Yeah,
absolutely insane. Absolutely
he's
insane.
done,
anyway,
right?
Yeah, but I mean, what a way to go. Anyway,
yeah,
total tangent. One of the greatest things about whenever you train weight and resistance training, the pump gives you that future vision of yourself. Now, albeit it's only for about 20 minutes, and then you leave the gym and you're like, where the fuck did it all go? But it's like, this is potentially what I could look like all of the time if I continue to do the stuff. And it's just continuing to do that on repeat with not getting that gratification right away and being able to practice it slightly longer term, which is fucking hard because everything else we can get at the press of a button. The Jeff Bezos effect of getting the thing the next day, you cannot do that with your physique. And I think that's one of my favorite things about training, and why we respect the people we see with a good physique, because we know that are taking time. Do you mean you cannot shortcut that? Nobody else can do it for you. You can't just fucking go and buy it. You have to put the fucking work in for it.
Yeah, and I have a whole level of respect for folks that I see that are in a fitness state or a fit state, because I know the time and effort that it took to actually accomplish that and to maintain that and to continue to build on that, and just having faith that that's going to continue to that you're going to continue to get better over time. And it was interesting with Chris, Bumstead specifically, obviously, phenomenal physique and everything else, but that guy, he put the work in, man. Every single day, that's all he did every day was eat appropriately, sleep appropriately, work out appropriately, change his stuff when things weren't working a certain way to get to a different level. And that's very noble in what you're trying to accomplish. And I think for most folks, are like, hey, I don't want to get super big. Well, you're not going to get super big in most cases. You're going to look more, aesthetically appealing. You might have bigger shoulders that give you more of a V-tapered look that people, look at and say, oh, hey, you could tell he takes care of himself, or, she takes care of herself, and the body really shows that way. And, living more healthier in every way and having more energy, the ability to hang out with your kids more and everything else that I mentioned before, all that stuff becomes a reality when you start to have that belief system that things will change over time. And, it doesn't mean that there's not setbacks. It doesn't mean that, you get time of disbelief. I will say the one saving grace that we do have for immediate feedback is the pump. When you're at the gym and you get a nice pump on, you're like, man, I look huge. Now that goes away in an hour and you don't look huge anymore. But it's what could potentially be possible someday, right? And so that is kind of an immediate gratification of like, hey, I look damn good right now, after I did my pull day, because pull day you look the best at. But
well, that's incorrect. That's okay. You're entitled to your opinion. And even I trained earlier on, and like I have been training, but not at full capacity until I got the gym sorted. And I will say it's fucking cold in the gym here, but I was warm in a burst training. I had a vest on, and I took it off. I was like, I had shoulder pump and triceps, and I was like, oh, this is actually all right. Like I'm not so bad. But now I'm like, oh, I'll go back down and look in the mirror.
Where'd it go?
Where did it need to change the light, turn a different light on or whatever? The third level of competence is neutral passive. So going from positive to neutral. And the language in this changes whenever he says, okay, it's worked for other people. Let's see if it works for me. So not how I can make it work. It's putting ownership back on the thing. Not necessarily a bad thing, but it's like not taking ownership. It's like sort of the people who half-ass things. And I think for me, this is the people who like they show up. They feel like because it's a thing, they want to be a part of it. They feel like because they pay. Well, let's talk about coaching because that's the example that's in my head. When they pay the coach, then that's all that they have to do. They don't necessarily feel like they have to do the work. And actually, one of my first ever clients, and I've talked about him before, a guy called Jason, and I'm still in contact with him. I saw him a couple of weeks ago. He was the first person that brought this to my attention. And I think I started coaching him in like January 2017. And a couple of months in, he was like, I have a confession to make. And I was like, okay. He's like, I thought that just because I paid you that I would get the results. I'm like, what do you mean? And he was like, well, I thought that just paying and having a coach mean I get the result. Like I didn't realize the amount of work that goes into it. I'm like, fucking hell, like not something I ever thought of myself. So I've always been mindful of that in terms of like clients that come after that. I thought it was an interesting perspective.
Yeah, I don't think people really realize the amount of work that goes into something, but it's all building stuff over time. It doesn't have to happen immediately, where you're all in on something. It's building those right habits up ahead of time, whether that's eating nutritionally right and not going overboard on eating, whether that's putting the time into the gym to get the work in, whether that's getting your sleep down knocked out right and maybe cutting back on alcohol or something like that, bad habits or staying up all night, those types of things are behavioral changes that nobody can do for you. Like I can't force you to not eat like shit. I can't force you to not drink. I can't force you. I'm not saying drinking, you can't drink, but in moderation here. And if you're drinking heavy every night, that's a problem, right? It's going to impact your sleep. It's going to impact your body, your ability to repair and heal. So, we can't change how you live your life. We can give you the tools to be successful that are proven that if you do this, things will come and happen the way that you want them to, but it will take time, but it's going to require you to have to do things differently than you've ever done before. And, people have to understand that commitment. It's a commitment to changing yourself for the better. Do you really want that? Or are you okay with where you're at now? And I'll tell you, like, when I was up on stage yesterday, it's taken me a long time to not feel like I'm not overweight, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've always been heavy set Dave. Now I feel strong. I'm confident in my physique. I wear tighter fitting clothes. I wore kind of skinny jeans on stage. I wore a tight fitting, shirt. And I felt comfortable in that because I've put the work in and I know my physique is better than it ever has been. Is it perfect? No. Could I go down an even larger rabbit hole than I'm currently doing today? Sure, absolutely. If I wanted a six pack and to be completely lean, I could do that, right? That's not where I'm at right now. But, I know that where I'm at today is not where I was at 3 years ago, 4 years ago, even 1 year ago. And it has taken me a long time to get to that point. It's not immediate, but it has required me to change a lot of things I do. I don't drink much at all. When I was at SaintCon, I had 2 old fashions, right? And that's all I've had this week and last week, and the week before. That's the only alcohol I've had in 3 weeks, essentially, because I just don't need it anymore. Plus, I don't like how it makes me feel anymore. Like I can tell it doesn't make me feel great because I'm not used to drinking all the time. I get tired. I feel like shit the next morning, even if I only have a couple. And it's one of those things where it's like, why do I even want to do this anymore? Because I've changed my lifestyle so differently that I don't need to do it, or staying up till 2 or 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning programming. And then, being a complete mess the next day and being aggro to, people around me. It's like, why would I do that? I don't need to do that anymore. So it's those patterns that you change that allow you to get the desired results, but you have to change. No one's going to do that for you. There's not going to be a magic pill or, a specific diet that you can still eat whatever you want to magically and you're not going to gain weight. At the end of the day, our bodies are thermogenic. We have calories in versus calories out. And we have to moderate that based on the desired results. If we want to get larger, we have to eat more. If we want to get smaller, we have to eat less. If we want to build muscle, we have to send those signals to build and break down the muscle and build them much stronger again. It's pretty simple in its nature, but the hard part is us actually going and doing it.
Yeah, and actually to talk about behavior, I had a call with Mike B earlier on today, and we're basically planning out the rest of the year, and he's going on vacation like mid-December. And basically we're doing a cut up until that point, and then we're going to review after. And I said the words and then I corrected myself. It's like, you're going to go away on vacation, and I know you're not going to eat like an asshole, because it's not, eat like a complete asshole. I know he will overindulge because he's away and he wants to enjoy himself, but like, I know it's not in him anymore to like completely take the piss, because we spent the past 2 years completely changing his behaviors and whatever else. And he knows what it's like you said, the feeling. Do you know what I mean? It's like if he goes away and he eats like a total asshole, he's going to feel that on vacation. He's going to know what he has to deal with on the other side of it. And he's like, doesn't even cross his mind anymore of going into that. Yes, okay, we'll go and he'll enjoy a nice meal out or enjoy some more alcohol than he would usually drink, but it's not like a complete shit show that it could have been previously, because
it's not him.
Yeah, exactly. It's not that. He's not that person anymore. The next one is negative passive. So it may work for other people, but it probably won't work for me. And the final one is negative active. And I've seen a lot of these people, and they're interesting characters because you can help them sort of reframe it. The last one's negative active. Almost people who want to prove that it doesn't work for me, because quote unquote, nothing works for me. Calories in versus calories out don't work for me. I could not eat for 10 years and I still wouldn't lose weight. The laws of thermodynamics don't work for me. It's like I'm a fucking special snowflake and my body's different than everyone else. And I think that my favorite thing, and again, Hermosi touched on this whenever he spoke in the video, is like, if you can get those types of people to reframe the want to prove something, instead of trying to prove the product or the program wrong, and give them the sort of reframe of what if it does work, and then they become right back up to the top of positive active. And it's an interesting shift in dynamic of those people.
Well, I mean, so I think people get into that mindset because they have in their minds tried everything they possibly could have, and again, in their minds, and have failed at each one of those, right? And it's almost like a defense mechanism of, I don't want to fail again, right? Mm-hmm. So they make excuses saying, hey, it's my genetics, or it's this or that. Hey, I just have a slow metabolism. There's actually a lot of good data studies out that people that are actually more obese have a higher metabolism because they have to burn more calories. They have to burn more things. Now their consumption is much, much, much higher than those, but their metabolism is not, weaker or slower than those that are skinny, that have muscle mass, that have anything else. And, again, it's about sending your body the right signals. If you're sitting on your butt all day and you're eating food all day and you're not exercising that body, well, that body is going to react that way. It's going to continue to put on weight because you aren't burning it. You're going to continue to add mass because you're not burning it. And you're not going to be sending the signals to build muscle. So you're not going to build muscle, and your muscle is going to atrophy, right? And because you're not using it. Our bodies are the more and more you learn about our bodies and just the complexities around how it operates, but how special these machines are is absolutely incredible to me. I mean, you use it or you lose it is the best way. So if you're not using your brain's not working the way that it should. It's a muscle in itself. One of the most highest consumption of calorie muscles, by the way, especially as you're burning and burning the midnight oil there. But when you look at our bodies, like if we're continuously, putting it under tension and we're continuously building muscle, that's what our bodies were designed to do from the very get-go. We were designed to build little towns and build farms and rake hay and build train systems and things like that. We've evolved through millions of years of having to survive. And now that we have an ecosystem that allows us to have food without having to work for it, that allows us to work on computers without having to do physical exercise, it has become a big problem because we have not evolved in a way that allows our bodies to do that. And so now, we're finding other ways of evolving through science. You look at things like Ozempic and Wegovy and Moderna that allow you to, shut off the appetite signals in your brain. We're evolving in different ways, but again, it's still not going to enact a large percentage of your body to keep you healthy. Especially from a cardiovascular perspective. Especially from a muscle mass perspective, especially from living longer. I mean, yes, you will have some immediate impact on LDL and HDL cholesterol, and as you drop the weight, it will be less weight that your body's taxing on. But in the long run, unless we're doing the things that our bodies were designed to do, they will not function the way that they're supposed to. And that's just on all the data studies that's showing resistance training seems to be the absolute best thing that we could possibly do for our bodies to live long term, to live a healthier, happier life, to have the energy that we need to go through the day, and continue on with that.
Yeah, but I think number one, talking about science, did you see Jeff Nippard posted he had to get an MRI because the big
Mike he got punched in the throat twice
in the gym? What the fuck madness? Because he did a video on
did you see the video of that? The guy literally throat chokes him and slams him on the ground, and
that guy is fucking massive, dude.
Yeah,
but I saw that I flicked onto his Instagram, and
by the way, hope it looks like Jeff is doing good. I'm a huge fan of Jeff Nippard. I love his videos. He's a great dude. He always seems super humble and nice, and I it's funny because Jeff recently came out with a study that talked about full range of motion versus half range of motion, stress position versus non-stress position. And the data basically showed that Jeff was wrong, that stress position really doesn't make a huge difference in building muscle. Newbie gains you do, but it's a different type of muscle fiber. But he's still like, well, I think I'm going to still continue to do the stretch and everything else, but, it may not have as much of an impact as I thought it did. And, you see all these influencers and everything. And Jeff's amazing, by the way. Again, the science-based approach he takes to things, looking at the data studies, proving things that he's done previously wrong, is a great thing. But, to go and do that to somebody because, they take a science-based approach to their bodies versus, hey, I'm just going to pump iron in whatever way I want to. And obviously the guy that did is super strong and big. He's one of the top power lifters, out there, but obviously total asshole when it came to what he did to Jeff.
Well, so I flicked through to find out what the full story was, and Jeff had done a video. So basically the guy, Mike, had posted a video on something along the lines of all these science-based approach lifters, why are they so mediocre? And Jeff was sort of backing himself as he was a top natural bodybuilder, and in terms of the strength that he has for a powerlifter, he's a small dude, so it's like not massive numbers, but comparatively to being, I think he weighs 180 pounds and he's like 5'5".
For his frame of body type, amazing, incredible physique, yeah.
So that was the video before the one that was released of him punching him, but like fucking not that. That guy, Big Mike, as well, for anybody who cares, used to be Drake's bodyguard. Find that interesting as well. I've been down a rabbit hole, as you can tell. But anyway, the negative active people, I think if we take it back to like ownership and fault and responsibility, I would almost, and I'm not speaking from experience here, I'm as a thought experiment, we'll say, I would imagine that it is almost easier to try and prove the thing wrong and prove themselves right than admit that they've been in control the entire time. So like, I would imagine that for them, they spent their whole life, potentially overweight or out of shape or whatever. And instead of going down the path of, okay, I could have controlled this before I did at age 30, 40, 50, whatever it is, they're just out to prove every program and every sort of approach incorrectly.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, if your mindset, and this comes down to mindset, right? If your mindset is not there and you're already in a negative state going into it, are you really going to have a lot of success? And that's in anything in life, by the way. That's not just, fitness in general. That's anything in life. If you think that you're going to fail at something, you most likely will fail at something.
Well,
right.
I'm going to use myself as an example. So I did make a note of this, and this is how it all came about for me, because it's the going into that with the thought of this isn't going to work for me. And for me personally, it was, I have said for 2.5, 3 years that I don't use Instagram for like self-promotion or coaching promotion, because generally the people that I work with don't use Instagram, so it won't work for me. And my business is different than every other business. And I sort of have completely written it off before even trying. And that's what triggered me whenever I was listening to the Hormozy video in the first place. I was like, I've been that person in this one instance because I've completely written it off because, quote unquote, it won't work for me without me even actually fucking trying.
Yeah. And I actually gave a talk about this yesterday at SaintCon in cybersecurity, and how, my outlook in life is just go and do it and figure it out as you go along, and having a mindset that if you commit to something and you do something, it will work eventually in some way. You may fail along the way. You may have struggles. It's not going to be perfect. And I talked about, when I left Diebold to start Trusted Sec, I had no idea how to start an LLC. I had no idea how to run a business. I had no idea how to do taxes. I had no idea how to do payroll. I had no idea how to do benefits. I had no idea, none of this, right? But I knew that what I was doing was good, and that I had the expertise in my area to be good at, doing this for other companies. And I knew that if I dedicated enough time and effort to learning these other things, that I would be successful at it, right? And I knew that. Now, did I do everything as perfect as a professional that has done this before? Absolutely not. But now I have started 6 businesses, and I'm pretty good at doing that. And I just recognize that it takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. But at the same time, I have a mindset that allows me to push forward in something and have success with something because I believe in myself that it will work. But I have to put the time, and I have to put the work, and I have to believe in it in order for that to work. And I was talking to Serbo on this. Trent runs DEF CON parties, and Trent was like, "Dude, how do you do all this all the time?" And I'm like, "Listen, man, I've literally just made all my hobbies things into businesses, things that I believe in, things that I know work for me to try to help other people. I've just made those into businesses somehow, And I think when you can relate it to something like that you're interested in, something that you enjoy doing, you have to be able to be successful at that because you enjoy doing it, right? But if you don't enjoy being fit, or you don't want to be fit, and you go into it with the mindset of, hey, I'm going to fail at this because I really don't want to do it anyway, well, most likely you're going to fail at that, right? But if you give yourself the right tools to learn, you give yourself the right options to be able to build upon something that you previously didn't know. And it's crazy because, I've talked about this before, but what's interesting about the fitness stuff is it's really simple when you break it down. But I was making things so complex before, whether it was with an Atkins diet, or, keto, or whether it was with, a 90-day lose 20 pounds, program. I wasn't focusing my effort or time on the right things, and I was setting myself up to failure. So if you have the right tools to learn, i.e. a framework to go into that is successful for other people, and you can learn off of those people, you will be successful at that if you buy into that system. And I think it's hard for a lot of folks to buy off in the system. They've had so many failures before. But my question back to the negative mindset is, were you really into that before? Were you all into that before? Or was this just a quick fix, a quick patch, that you were trying to do to see if it would actually work for you? And instead of going all in and saying, this is going to be me for the rest of my life.
Well, I think, to your point, it's simple, but it's not easy. And that's a difficult concept to get your head around. My next point of observing why people do not have success is not going all in. And I think everybody who listens knows you're a person that goes all in. And it's more about being an active participant, not only in your own journey, but like within the community. And I see this myself, people who do their fucking check-ins on time. Not pointing any fingers at you, Dave, recently. Just people in general, not speaking about you specifically. People who show up.
I feel like you're speaking to me specifically.
No.
I did take my check-in photos this morning, by the way, just so you know.
Okay, cool. You're just gonna keep them to yourself? You're gonna send them to me?
I'm gonna send them to you. I gotta do the sheet. I gotta do the calories. I gotta do everything.
People who take an active role in the journey, in the community. People who show up on the calls. People who contribute in the Discord. People who show up to the events. Those people have, number one, a better experience. Number two, they feel like they contribute something back. And number three, they get a better result overall. So going all in is definitely something that will give you more of a successful journey. And the last one on this, because I'm conscious that we said we would keep the time, is communication. I feel like oftentimes people, whenever they have a shit week or they have, something else going on, they don't communicate with me specifically as a coach or coaches in general. And to me, I would rather deal with your check-ins on the shit weeks than deal with them on the good weeks. Like, the results happen on the good weeks. People are like, oh, I've just had like a normal week, it feels average. I'm like, that's cool. Like, that's what we want majority of the time. But when the shit hits the fan, that's whenever the coach's job comes in as to, okay, right, what do we need to do? What do we need to change? How do we fix it? Or is it just a case of it's a shit show for a while, we just need to let it settle and then we move on from there?
Well, you even hit me up. What was it? I had done something like, hey, I'm not gonna upload my calories this week because it just takes so much time. But I'm hitting my calories. You're like, well, that doesn't really help me to see whether or not you had a shit week or not a shit week. And how am I gonna know if you're really tracking on the way that you need to? Maybe your fats were up in 1 week versus others, and you feel like shit. Or there's a lot of indicators there that the data shows. And so you have to be consistent with it to show the results. And in 6 months, I'm not doing my calories, and all of a sudden I get the results. Well, is there a problem there with me tracking, or is there a problem there somewhere else that we need to look at to address the course correct, right? And you're not going to know that unless I'm doing the right stuff, right? Doing the right behavior, doing the right cadences of everything, and everything else that goes along with that.
Yep. So if you're someone who's listening to this, it's a client of mine that's not doing your check-ins, not Dave specifically, honestly, do your fucking check-ins. One other thing that I want to do is give a shout out to someone who is actively using the We Hack Health hashtag, because I think there's a lot of these people and we don't give them enough credit because they're the people who share what we're doing and they're the people who are showing up and doing the work. Twitter name, LegoSec, real name, Jeff. I have watched this guy. I've spoken to him a couple of times.
Jeff is awesome, dude.
Yeah, I've spoken to him a couple of times, and just seeing him show up, whether it's every day or every other day, with a photo of him in the gym, putting the work in, and seeing his transformation, like, I can visibly see the change in his face, let alone the rest of his body. And it's cool to see him show up and just be able, number one, to do it for himself, but share it with everybody else, because I think that that's how this whole thing came about. You sharing your journey and other people getting on board with it. So shout out to Jeff. We appreciate you sharing the hashtag and putting the work in.
I also want to do a shout out to Chris Russell, also known as Crewster online. Chris is, man, he's got an amazing physique, and that dude is always doing stuff online, tagging We Hack Health.
He's doing shoulders and then, like, dude, jumping on
shoulders
boxes and shit.
And his biceps. I mean, that's just everything part about him. He looks great. He's got an amazing physique. Yeah, but so I watch him and he's doing box jumps with medicine balls and things like that. I'm like, that's creative. Respect, hell of a lot of respect. He's looking great, and he's doing amazing with his journey too. So shout out to Chris and to Jeff. You guys are inspirational to us and keep us going as well. So thank you all very much.
Agree. Right. Recap, and then we'll move on to the closing out. Manage your mindset going into something. Communicate the good days and the bad days, and go all in on the thing. Like, if you're going to do it, and this I think applies.
Do it.
Do probably mostly in the gym. Like, if you're going to spend the time, whether it's an hour in the gym or whatever, like, you may as well get if you're spending the time anyway, you may as well get the most fucking value for your time being in there. So if you're going to do it, fucking do it. Like, go all in and stop fucking half-assing things. Last week, last week's episode, I don't know if you listened to it. That was recorded at the Belfast event, was one of my favorite client takeover episodes, and not specifically because I got Matt to host it, but just the nature of the conversation and the setting. It was a very cool episode. So if you haven't listened to it, listen to it. If you as a listener haven't listened to it, I would recommend listening to it. I think Matt did a great job, so I appreciate him being the host for us in that instance. Next week, we're going to talk about your supplement stack for winter, navigating seasonal affective disorder, and how you can navigate the winter months as much as possible. We're going to talk about supplements, Dave, so come prepared.
Yes.
Your favorite topic.
Let's record now. I got it ready to go. So a little bit of a spoiler too. A lot of it's going to be talking about vitamin D. So
yes. Yeah. So tune in next week for that.
Yeah. Last thing I want to hit on before we close this out. There was an article from the LA Times, which I thought was really cool. And it talked about how strength training may be the key to longevity and how do you do it safely as you age. And it's great to see publications start to publish less on the cardio and more on the resistance training as key to longevity based on the data studies that are coming out. Again, we've known this for a while, but the key to living longer, the key to losing the fat, the weight that you want to, is through resistance training. And there's resistance training you can do that also benefits from a cardio perspective as well. More so high intensity interval training, things like that can be really beneficial for your health. But it was good to see more of a commodity kind of newspaper / online thing talk about how you can progress in your life and live longer based on resistance training. So good stuff coming out. I think the industry's starting to change a bit.
Yeah, I'm all in for weight and resistance training. I actually got a message from Sean Lambert earlier on yesterday. I think he was like, I'm almost enjoying this sadistic approach to lifting, and I'm hating cardio more and more every day. I'm like, cool, the cult is working.
It's working.
Yeah, cool. Right, everybody, thanks for listening.
Thanks, everybody.
As always, share us with your friends. Follow the hashtag. Don't forget, we are still in cybersecurity month, so supplements are still 13% off with this super secret passcode of password 1234. So you've got a couple of days left to get that in. Overnight.
Over and out.
Press the button now. We're good to press the button now. Yeah.
You press it.
That's not working.
Not working.